In this video, I just want to introduce you to the new strand-based hair in Dev Studio 4.11. So the general concept is you need a geometry loaded that has UVs on it, and then you can select that and then create hair. So I'm going to create a plane. Now the plane by default has only one division, and I actually want a little more control, and I'll show you that in a moment. So I'm just going to create make it 2 divisions and then accept that. Select your geometry and then go to the Create menu to New Strand-Based Hair. Now if you don't have this showing up in your menu, you may need to update and merge menus. So that's found under Window, Workspace, Update and Merge Menus. You can run that and it should add this option here. So I'm going to create a strand-based hair editor, or strand-based hair, and it pops up and it asks me what I want to name it and what node to fit it to. We only have one in the scene and this is what we're doing, so I'll accept that. Default settings. First tab is Setup tab, and it shows the plane. You need to choose what surfaces you want to paint on, and then you can go in and paint. Now I just want to do a quick one, so I'm going to fill it all. You can also use a brush and paint in here, something like this, but let's just fill everything. And then the Distribute tab, it shows kind of how it's going to distribute and create the hairs. If you want, you can actually change this from Show Hairs to Show Hairs with Widths, and that'll give you a little better idea of what it's going to look like thickness-wise. And then right now it's showing all of the hairs, so you can see exactly how many would be getting generated, and you can play with the density here to change that. We'll leave it at 10 for now, and we'll keep the width and color and everything like that. And then we go to the Style tab. You have a comb is selected by default, so you can comb the hairs. Now these are guides that tell how the hair is going to grow. And let's go ahead and look and see what the hairs will look like. We'll click on Show Hairs. Now you can see as I brush, it will change the shape of the hair. And we have this one in the middle as well. To make it more obvious, let's go ahead and lengthen that hair. So I'm going to select that and just drag, and now I'm going to go back and I can play with these hairs however I want to get some interesting results. Alright, after you've styled the hair the way you want it to look, you'll want to double check that you like how the hair is filling in. So go ahead and change from Show Hairs to Show Hairs with Widths, and then drag this up to 100%. And now you can see basically what that hair is going to look like when you take it over to Dev Studio. So let's go ahead and do that now. I'll skip the other tabs. Click Accept. Now when you first come into Dev Studio after the editor, you see a strand-based hair node, and it's got the squiggly lines right there, but it doesn't have any hairs growing. What you need to do is go to the Parameters pane, and under Line Tessellation, that's under General, we have a Preview PR Hairs. If you click this, you will now be able to render the hair. You can see by default the Render Line Tessellation size is 3, and that would be cylinders. For each hair it would be a cylinder. So let's go ahead and say OK. It's generating our hair right now, so it'll take a moment. Okay, now it popped up, and this is what we were seeing in the editor. And if we wanted to render it, we would be able to see it rendering in Iray. So one thing that we're doing is we also are including a Iray shader that can be applied that will make it look better, render better. So let's go to Surfaces and select the surface and then apply that shader. This is included in the dForce Hair Starter Essentials package that's been distributed. So now that I applied this, I've got my orange color going on, and you can see a bunch of options here that we'll cover later, but this gives you the ability to use a texture based on the underlying surface UVs to determine how the hair is going to look. And I just want to try that right now just to make sure that it works. And it won't show up until we go into Iray. And it'll take a moment as it gets ready to render here. Okay, now that we have that image loaded, I want to apply it to multiple properties here. So I'll go ahead and do that. Select all these, and I really want white to be the color, so let me switch these back to white. You should see some colors emerging as I go. Okay, so now the hairs, they got the texture from the surface UVs, and so if I went and selected the plane and applied that same image to it, you would see this is how the texture looks on the surface, and the hairs, wherever they fall on the surface, will then become that color. And that's the result that you are seeing here in the viewport once I bring the hairs back. So that's kind of the beginning of using the hair. Feel free to get it, play with it, and try this on different geometries, different hair counts. Just be aware that if your hair count gets too high, your graphics card might not be able to handle it, and it might kick it off and use the CPU instead if you're rendering iRay. So just play with settings, find the ones that make you happy, and get the results that you need in a good time rendering speed and updating in the viewport.